Hi everyone, this is Ruby Powers of Powers Law Group, and thanks for joining us. I just wanted to let you know that we're going to be here for questions, and even though it says power up your practice on some of the things, we're with Powers Law Group. So we are I'm a board certified immigration attorney, and we're here to answer any questions you might have. There's been a lot going on. One was the presidential candidate debate on Tuesday night, and the other was this continued stay of the Keeping Families Together parole in place program. But we're also here to talk about other things, immigration, and so definitely feel free to ask any of those questions. So which one should we tackle first? Let's go maybe to the presidential debate. Vice President Harris and former President Trump had their first ever one-on-one face-off debate together. And there were a lot of things said about immigration. For the most part, I think most people are remembering something about the fact that he implied Haitians eat cats. And there's also something about, he said that the immigrants are taking over our cities and taking over our buildings and taking over violently. And so definitely had a hard line about immigration, and definitely was, that seemed to be his focus, unfortunately, and there was a lot of misinformation about that. What we saw was he used a lot of scare tactics describing the illegal immigrants illegally crossing the U.S. border, and he was misleading, saying that immigrants take the jobs from union workers and native-born Americans. He said without evidence that millions are pouring in from other countries, prisons and mental institutions, and that the Democrats are signing them up to vote in this year's election. Well, we know that the majority of all of those are incorrect with fact checks and just general logic. But unfortunately, this is what was being said. And, what I've known as an immigration attorney for 16 years, one bad press news headline for an immigrant it takes like almost 10 or 20 good news to be able to make up for one bad thing. But this really shook I think a lot of people. Now, many say that Vice President Kamala Harris won the debate, and having watched a lot of commentary after the debate, many say that whoever wins the debate doesn't necessarily mean you win the election. But afterwards, Taylor Swift endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris with a photo of her holding her cat, being a childless cat lady, I believe is what she said, amongst other things. So anyway, there was that. And then the other thing that happened on the 23rd, 23rd anniversary of 9/11 yesterday, remembering those who just basically everything that happened from them there. I remember being at the University of Texas, hearing about it, and then going to the computer lab to watch the news. Everybody who was alive during that time or grown up or has their story about what they remember, what happened, and then just the impact it had on those lives lost, those brave souls who helped keep from more damage from happening, but then also the impact it had by the creation of the war abroad and the creation of Department of Homeland Security, which being in this space in immigration, which took over multiple agencies. And so really that was the beginning of a lot of what we see here, the approach of immigration. So even though it was 23 years ago and a lot of people now in the workforce weren't even alive when that happened, it's something to remember. And I just wanted to mention that. The other thing that happened in the news from yesterday was that there was a update about the parole in place, keeping families together. And I did have that in my notes, but more or less from what I've seen is that there's an indefinite stay right now from the Fifth Circuit because there's some other related issues happening. And what they want is you can still submit your applications, like we've been saying, but we had previously thought it was going to be September 10th, that we thought it was going to be September 23rd. And now from what I'm understanding is it's an indefinite. I had previously thought I read something about October, but I think that it's actually currently indefinite until something else gets resolved, which there's also, let me read this. This is the unpublished order. So the administrative panel expedited the appeal and has established a briefing schedule. The merits panel has set oral argument on October 10th. So I believe that's the date that we're keep thinking is going to be the date that we'll learn more. The district court has entered administrative stay expiring September 23rd of the defendant's proposed action and set a hearing and possible trial for September 18th. Meaning no criticism of the district court's recognition of the need for prompt resolution. This panel must have an opportunity to consider the merit briefs scheduled to be received by September 16th to hear the argument, blah, blah, blah. Accordingly, we've administratively stayed the proceedings in the district court pending a decision on the merits or order of this court. The stay issued by the district court will remain in effect pending further order. So I think the best way to approach this keeping families together is that there's a stay at least until October 10th, if not a little longer, but you can still submit applications. From what we had seen on the forums and the chats and things like that is that we're apparently some people are even getting calls from USCIS asking them about their application. We think that USCIS is trying to do everything they can so that the moment that this is resolved with the anticipation of DHS winning, that they would be able to be able to just hopefully just prove a whole bunch of people. That would be super wonderful. And it's really crazy how close the timing is, right? Because this started August 19th, and then there was a stay, and then there was a stay, and then there's another stay, and then October 10th. Well, my goodness, I keep looking at my calendar. I mean, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's like 4 weeks before the federal election. So we're going to be getting really close to the election. And so all I would just say about that and keeping families together, definitely, and we'll get to questions because I'm pretty much done with the news in a second. We'll be getting to, is that you can still file them. I would if you qualify. I would definitely have a consultation to evaluate, and but it looks like the stay has continued until October 10th. And so that's just something we have to deal with. But they are taking the applications, they are giving you the receipts, and they're also, it seems like they're moving things along. I recently had a consultation where an individual had filed on their own, and they wanted me to review. One of the things that's difficult with it being an online filing is that if you don't label your documents really well, all you say is like, 2, 3, 4, 5 JPEG or something like that. I don't know what that document is about, or if you don't keep a copy of that somewhere, which I would highly suggest, because let's say this does get approved, but it's important that maybe you hire an attorney for the rest of the adjustment of status and the I-130 and everything. You want to tell your attorney what you submitted. So it just was a reminder about those who might be doing some pro se filing on their own. Make sure you have you read the instructions and you label things properly and you keep a copy. But I heavily suggest having an attorney. And the other thing is, if you don't understand what the requirements are, you might get the case denied because you didn't submit the documents that are required. So let's move over to some questions, and we'll be on here for a little bit, but definitely get your questions and we'll try to answer everybody who asks. So can a U.S. citizen file the I-130 when outside of the U.S. or must they return home to file it? A U.S. citizen can be outside of the U.S., but what I have found is that there are some questions about where is the petitioner, and where, if you're going to do consular processing as the U.S. citizen, just keep an idea of how you've been doing your taxes. Because even though you're a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident outside of the U.S., you're still supposed to do your taxes. There are some foreign tax exemption things that I'm not a CPA accountant person, but there are some restrictions and rules and things to consider. But where they'll get you with USCIS and Department of State and all that good stuff is if you don't have that intention to live in the U.S. and you haven't maintained, escaping the fancy word right now, but basically taxes are key. And if you're saying, I'm just abroad a little bit until they get their status and then I'll come in, those are some things to consider. But have a consult if you want to go more into that detail. Okay, if someone was arrested 20 plus years ago for public intoxication, will it come up in biometrics? Well, yeah, it could. I mean, really, anything that ever happened can show up. It's just a matter of how long ago was it, where's the file, and was it sent to the right place, and all this, all that. I would say it's fair game for it to show up. I feel like you asking that question is a little bit like, should I mention it? You should always mention it, even if you know that it happened, even if you don't know what the proof of it. But you should try really hard, because if you show that you tried really hard to get the proof, like FBI background check and a whole bunch of other good stuff, and the records and all that, then they're gonna appreciate the fact that you're gonna be able to say, in the absence of me, of the evidence, but I've just demonstrated that I've tried really hard. Just got the #1 gifter badge. Oh, okay. Thank you for the rose. I am just learning what that is, but thank you. I like roses. So if my filing date is current for the EB2, but my final action date is not current, can I send the 45? Okay. You know, I really hate when they split that visa bulletin up. I don't know what year they did that, but it just there's something about my brain that cannot, it just makes me think a little extra harder. So you are saying that you are inside the country because you're talking about 485s. The I-45 would only be filed if you are in the US. And so if we go to the EB2, that's another thing in the news, forgot to mention that. The visa bulletin for October came out. That's a big one because of the new the fiscal year started. And so usually there's a lot of movement. Okay, so EB, well, I guess I could, what you do is you go to the dates, there's the dates of final action dates, and then there's the dates of filing. And what you do is you look at, if you're going to do 45 and you're in the country and you're in legal status, is you go to the visa bulletin information. Okay, and then it's going to take you to another website. And then that's where it's going to say, so right now we're in September, so we want to go to next month. So the answer to the one you listened to is employment-based preference filings. For all employment-based preference categories, you must use the dates for filing chart. Dates for filing chart for the department. So that's the answer. So you go to the visa bulletin and you go to check what the USCIS bulletin, and then it'll tell you which one they're using that month. Is public intoxication considered criminal when it comes? Public intoxication. The last I read the list of crimes for the parole in place for keeping families together, it's still it's a criminal charge but it's not a disqualifying one. Especially if it wasn't a felony. I don't think you can get a felony public intoxication. Never heard of that before. But as long as it's not a felony, which I don't think it would be, but it's not on the list of, like, if it is, no matter what, you're doomed for eligibility. So I think you definitely have a consult, but I don't think that's on the list. And you can always go to the USCIS website and see the frequently asked questions, and they have a lot of good stuff there that they seem to always be updating. All right, so we're getting into, I want to make social security number. Can you tell me about this procedure? Well, usually in my space is that I need to make sure that you have a work authorization or a valid ability to obtain work authorization, and then you apply for that, and then you get the social. So I think a lot of times on the application for a work authorization, they ask, do you want a social to be issued to you? So I think if you want to ask more specific question, let me know. So there's no hearing on September 18th. I don't know. I need to double check this. I was at a conference from like literally Saturday to Wednesday, and then I saw this news, and then I've been trying to immerse myself into all of this. It was a legal tech conference, so we'll keep you guys up to date. But there's like a multiple hearing. There's something about DACA going on as well, and then there's this one, and so there's a lot of movement happening. I need to get my get up to speed with what's happened the last few days. If my brother's a U.S. citizen and he files a petition for me, can I get work authorization after? Well, let me tell you, the visa bulletin, let's just go to October. I don't know what country your brother is from, but let's just pretend he's from not China, India, Mexico, or the Philippines. If you file for him well, they're giving people the visas for people who filed in 2007. So if your question is, if I file for him, can I get work authorization for him right away? No. You have to wait till the visa becomes current and he's eligible for adjustment, or you might want to find another option in that meantime. Jeeb, feel free to type your question or have a consultation. Yeah, go ahead. I have a next person. I have a conditional green card marriage. I'm mistreated, nothing physical though. What can I do? Well, let's just say this. If you have a conditional green card, you don't need to stay in the relationship because you think that for some reason it's required to remove the conditions. You don't. To file the I-751, you can file it with a good faith marriage, but a waiver filing, which means you're not filing it with your spouse. If you have a lot of proof of the relationship and that when you said I do, you thought that it was going to last, then, and you have that evidence to back it up, then you can get that's justification for having the removal of the conditions. In fact, when you file that, you just need to make sure that you have the divorce finalized, and you could file before the 2 years of your green card has expired. Now, mistreated, let's go into that for a second. If there's emotional, psychological, and other type of abuse, and I'd say with a therapist's note and your letter and some other things, those are what I would put in your application. But this is a very sensitive subject, so I really would suggest having a consultation so that we could go over that more in detail. But I think one of the biggest takeaways I would say is don't, if you do have a conditional green card, don't feel like you have to stay in the relationship for 2 years because and deal with that mistreatment, because you don't. And there is a way to apply either for the waiver with about the abuse, or waiver of it was a good faith marriage but it didn't. There's also hardship as well. So there's a few options. Is the PIP paused indefinitely? It doesn't say anything on the USCIS website. Well, was yesterday a federal holiday? Because there's a lot going on. I'm just wondering if sometimes it takes a day for USCIS to update things. I saw that later in the, I don't know when I saw that update. Let me get back with you about that. I think let's just stick with October 10th as our date for right now. But I did see something say, where did I see that? I saw that on the ILRC website was updated yesterday. And okay, let me read this. Okay. On September 11th, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ordered that all proceedings in the district court be halted while the Fifth Circuit resolves a separate matter related to the case. They will leave the PIP process on hold indefinitely. That's the word. That's where I got it from. For now, USCIS will accept applications but can't issue approvals. When they use the word indefinitely, they just mean that they don't want to give you a date. And so what it's probably going to be is that they're going to have to get that other hearing resolved in that other matter, and then they can circle back and it'll have a ripple effect onto this one. So I think that's the best answer I can tell you right now. Should I cancel my trip to Puerto Rico? I have a Texas ID and ED, but no travel document. I don't know what the basis of everything else with your case, so I think, Puerto Rico is part of the U.S., but I would definitely have a consultation and make sure that you reviewed all potential situations. I've been in the U.S. for more than 9 months. I'm eligible to apply for. Oh, I really need to know more. That doesn't tell me enough. What could be a reason to deny an I-601A? It could be that you don't have enough hardship. It could be that you they think you have too many crimes or issues. It could be that you entered a few times too many, but probably it's more about hardship because they got rid of their reason to believe standard a while ago. Okay, we're going to be closing up. Tried to get through as many questions as I could. My closing thought, or what are thoughts on the pre-IP after the news yesterday being the news that the stay. I'm still taking it all in, but I think that ultimately one thing that a lawsuit has to have is it has to have standing, and to have standing, they're in this situation they have to have a harm, and those 16 states had to prove that there was a harm to them for all these wonderful, amazing people to get work authorization and find a way to legal permanent residency, which a parole does not in itself give you that the legal permanent residency. But many scholars, including myself, I will call myself a scholar, say that they won't be able to find that standing because there isn't that harm. In fact, it's the opposite of harm. It's only going to help all of these states because everyone's going to get work authorization, driver's license, better jobs, Social Security, get on the books, pay more taxes. Taxes, they love taxes, right? They should be happy about this. And so anyway, you can submit more documents after you upload and submit the payment for the parole place. That's what's pretty cool about it. Okay, well, it was great being with you today. We'll keep doing this on a regular basis. Again, my name is Ruby Powers with Powers Law Group. We'll see you next time. Take care.